I was buzzing with excitement as I got ready for my date with Mark. This was our third time going out, and it felt like tonight might be the night things really heat up for him, if you catch my drift. A thrill was building up inside me, making my heart race. While I dabbed on the last of my mascara, my mind wandered back to our first 2 dates. I'd met Mark about a month back when I hit the town with my buddy Lisa. We'd only planned a chill evening to toast Lisa's birthday, nothing wild. But then these two good-looking guys sent over drinks and made it crystal clear they wanted to get to know us better, and, well, the night took a turn. Lisa caved first, giving me a quick glance for the okay before saying yes to a few dances with one of the guys. That left me paired up with Mark. He was a total gentleman through the 4 songs I let him spin me around the dance floor for. When we all sat back down, it just made sense for the 4 of us to share a table. I couldn't tell you what Lisa and her guy were chatting about, I only had eyes for Mark. The man was easy on the eyes, sharp with his words, and probably a good 5 years younger than me. But what really got me was how he made me feel like the only person in the room. When I was with him, his focus was all on me, and let me tell you, that kind of attention is flattering as hell. By the time the night wrapped up, I was actually thinking about bending my strict rule, never hook up with a guy unless I'm in love. I knew I'd kick myself for it later, and it'd send all the wrong signals. Lucky for me, Mark took the decision out of my hands by calling it a night early, saying he had to be up for work at the crack of dawn. True to form, the guy paid for both Lisa's and my drinks before walking us out to my car. He pulled me in for a quick kiss on the lips, said goodnight, and that was that. I was a bit shocked when Lisa told me she was heading to Mark's friend's place for the night. I mean, I know her standards are looser than mine, but that was bold, even for her. Driving home alone, I was practically buzzing with thoughts about what could come next. But once I was out of Mark's spellbinding presence, a sliver of doubt crept in. I mean, come on, what were the chances a guy like Mark was single? I'd already peeked at his hand that first night and felt a wave of relief when I saw no wedding ring, but that old saying started nagging at me, ladies, if you meet a guy who's good-looking, built, sweet, and attentive, don't bother, he's probably got a boyfriend. Still, I knew Mark wasn't gay. When we got close during that final slow dance, I could feel he was just as into me as I was into him. Normally, I'd never be so forward on a first meet, but something told me I couldn't let this guy slip away. So, you'd think with all that chemistry, I'd have jumped at a second date, but I didn't say yes until 11 days later. He called me every couple of days, clearly just as smitten as I was. Our second date was back at the same bar, with Lisa and Mark's friend there too. Mark greeted me with a warm kiss that made my knees weak, and just like before, the 4 of us split into pairs at the table. It wasn't until about 30 minutes in, when I finally peeled myself away from his charm and that magnetic pull, that I glanced at his left hand. My stomach dropped when I spotted a faint pale mark on his ring finger. "You're married, aren't you?" "I knew you were too perfect," I blurted out, feeling like a fool. Mark held up his hand, showing me the finger. "This?" "I was married, but that ended 6 months ago. Didn't work out. It's winter, and I work in an office, so the tan line's still fading." Feeling a mix of relief and worry that my little outburst might have put a dent in what we were building, I quickly said sorry to Mark. Not wanting to let that moment ruin things, I decided to turn on the charm to smooth it over. I grabbed his hand and pulled him onto the dance floor, pressing close as we swayed together. He forgave me with a lean in and a soft kiss that sent a spark through me. We kept dancing and stealing kisses until the bar shut down at midnight. I didn't even notice when Lisa and Mark's friend slipped out, our table was empty when we finally wandered back. I was stuck in this age-old tug-of-war in my head. Part of me wanted to invite Mark back to my place right then and there, to seal the deal and ride that wave of relief. But I wasn't looking for a quick fling. If I gave in too soon, I might lose his respect, especially if he was thinking long-term like I was. I figured he'd have to put in a bit more effort to win me over. Plus, there's nothing quite like the thrill of being pursued by a guy who's all in, it's honestly just as exciting as that first spark with someone new. So, I gently let him know tonight wasn't the night, then let him walk me to my car. This time, our goodnight kiss was deep and electric, and I drove home feeling pretty damn proud of my restraint. For the next couple of weeks, I was floating on cloud 9, soaking up Mark's attention. He called me at least once a day, no exceptions. Every few days, I'd find flowers or a box of chocolates waiting at my office, which is partly why I held off on our third date for 15 days. I could tell he was starting to worry he was losing his shot, and I didn't want to risk letting him slip away, so I jumped at the chance for another date. Now, here I was, sitting at my vanity, brushing on blush and wondering if tonight was gonna be the night. This time, it was just me and Mark, no Lisa, and we picked a new bar. I took a gamble and asked him again if he was married, softening it by saying I just couldn't believe a catch like him was single. I caught a quick flash in his eyes, like my question stung a bit, and I instantly leaned in with my best kiss to make it right. "Listen, Jules," he said, "how do I prove I'm not hitched?" "Simple, how about we dance for a bit, then you can come back to my place." Whatever doubts he might have had melted away, and he pulled me close for another kiss that practically set my skin on fire. Across the bar, at a table tucked in the corner, Ben was watching us like a hawk. He'd never seen me and Mark together before, but he had a knack for reading couples, honed by years of people watching. Third date, I bet, he thought. She just gave him the green light for tonight. He decided to tail us, just to see if his hunch was right. If luck was on his side, he might even catch us somewhere private enough to snap a few photos or videos for his creepy little collection. His pulse quickened at the thought. On the dance floor, Mark and I were barely pretending to follow the music anymore, too wrapped up in each other, kissing like nobody else existed. Less than an hour after we got there, Mark grabbed my hand, led me out to his car, and drove off. Ben was already in his own car, tailing us with the ease of someone who'd done this before, following us to an apartment just 10 minutes away. I stood there, practically vibrating with anticipation, while Mark fumbled with his keys, trying to find the right one. He finally got it on the third try, and we stumbled inside as the door clicked shut. Meanwhile, Ben slipped out from behind a tree on the street where he'd been hiding. He crept around to the back of the small 3-unit apartment building, glancing at the tall wooden fences around it. With a practiced eye, he figured he could snoop without anyone spotting him. Peering through the slightly parted curtains, I could see from the dark bedroom into the brightly lit living room where Mark and I were caught up in the heat of the moment, tugging at each other's clothes. Ben, lurking outside, unzipped his belt bag and pulled out his video camera, ready to capture it all. He was a bit bummed the action was happening in the living room instead of somewhere more private, but he figured it could have been worse, those curtains might have been shut tight. He hit record and filmed our steamy encounter, grinning to himself. Standing there by the window, Ben thought, this is pure gold. In just under 5 minutes, he'd caught the whole thing on tape, and his excitement spiked when Mark and I stumbled into the bedroom, flipping on the bedside lamp without bothering to close the curtains. He stepped back from the glow spilling out, waiting until he was sure we were too wrapped up in each other to notice him. He'd just confirmed I was lying on my back with Mark when a sharp crack, a dry twig snapping under someone's sneaky step, broke the silence. Ducking into the shadows, Ben pinpointed the sound coming from some bushes about 10 yards to his left. He knew from experience that his creepy hobby sometimes attracted other watchers, and it always made him squirm with embarrassment. He wasn't exactly proud of this side gig. Holding still in the dark, Ben sensed someone else creeping toward the dim light he'd just left. Soon, another guy stepped into the glow and peeked through the window, and when the bedroom light hit his face, Ben let out a sly grin. "Hey, Paul," Ben called out softly. Paul dropped low beneath the windowsill, squinting into the darkness. "Jesus, Ben, you scared the hell out of me. What are you doing here?" "Same thing as you, man." "Same thing," Ben shot back with a smirk. "Worth watching?" Paul asked, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, it's top-notch. You missed the living room show, but they're in the bedroom now. Got any video going?" Ben replied. Yup, rolling. Mind sharing a copy? Paul asked. Deal, I'll hook you up, Ben said with a nod. Paul leaned in, peering through the curtain's gap with a wide grin. Hang on, gotta make a quick call, he said, stepping back. While Paul slipped away to make his call, Ben slid back to the window, camera still recording, marveling at his luck. This was shaping up to be a crown jewel in his collection. By the time Paul returned, Mark and I were deep in the moment, and Ben stepped aside to let Paul get his own footage. In hushed tones, with the keen eye of seasoned creeps, they swapped opinions on how Mark was holding up. About 15 minutes later, a loud banging on the apartment door echoed even to the back of the building, startling both of them. Mark and I, though, were way more thrown. We froze, exchanged confused looks, and scrambled to throw our clothes back on. Mark, despite struggling to zip up in a hurry, got dressed first and rushed out of the bedroom toward the front door. Seconds later, Ben and Paul's jaws dropped as Mark came flying back, crashing onto the living room floor. A furious woman, tall and clearly pissed, stormed in and loomed over him, swinging a short foam baseball bat with wild energy. Mark's muffled yelps carried through the window as she laid into him. When she'd had enough, she spun toward the bedroom, where I was frantically trying to slam the door shut. I wasn't strong enough to hold her back, and I stumbled backward until the bed hit my knees, sending me sprawling onto the mattress. With a growl, the woman charged in and started whacking me with the same bat, her swings punctuated by shouts of, "Homewrecker, shameless hussy," and, "That's my husband." Ben and Paul, still filming, knew their videos had just gone from great to legendary. Ben noted the bat was dense foam, no serious harm done, but the drama was next level. Seemingly done with her rampage, the woman turned and stormed back toward the apartment's front door. Paul took off sprinting around the building, with Ben hot on his heels, neither wanting to miss a single beat of this wild scene. Paul reached the front just as the towering woman flung the door open and stepped out, tossing a parting shot over her shoulder. If your buddy Steve knew you were using his place for this, he'd better start running too. When she caught Mark's mumbled response, she spun around and marched right back inside. That was my chance. I bolted out the door, only to slam straight into Ben, who was lurking by the gate. I stumbled, instinctively throwing my hands out to catch myself before I toppled backward again. Quick as lightning, Ben grabbed one of my arms to steady me, but with his other hand, he shoved an envelope into my free one, smirking as he said, "Julia Brown, consider yourself served. Your husband wants you at his place, pronto." I shoved past him, heart pounding, and tore down the street, screaming into the night. Ben turned back to the chaos still unfolding inside the apartment, soaking up the drama. Paul sauntered over, grinning. "Clean work, Ben." "Quick and to the point," Paul said. "Yeah, her husband gave me the go-ahead to serve her once I had the proof." "Poor woman, first time stepping out like that and she gets caught. Talk about rotten luck." "Oh, and don't forget, you owe me that video," Ben replied. Just then, the furious woman strode out of the apartment again and headed straight for Paul. "You get what I needed?" she demanded. "Got it all," Paul answered smoothly. "Who's this guy?" "I'm not paying for two of you, you know," she snapped, eyeing Ben. "No worries, ma'am. Us private investigators work solo. Ben here just served your husband's girlfriend," Paul explained. "Good. Saves me the trouble of tracking him down to send him the video," she said, then leaned back toward the door and shouted inside, "Might as well stay put, you jerk. Don't even think about coming home, you're done there." 200 yards away, I was still running, my legs pumping like there was no tomorrow. It hit me that it'd take at least an hour and a half to walk back to my car in these heels, which was asking for torture. No way was I going back near that apartment or that terrifying woman. My panicking brain finally remembered my phone, but when I fished it out, I saw it was toast, probably smashed during the beating. Clutching the envelope, tears streaming down my face, I limped into the darkness, sobbing. It took me a grueling 2.5 hours to finally reach my car and drive home. When I got there, my head was spinning with confusion. Why would my husband want me back at our house? He was supposed to be off on one of his business trips, the kind he takes every couple of weeks. I was bruised, sore, and exhausted, and when I pulled up, I noticed every light in the house was blazing. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get my key into the front door's lock, it just wouldn't slide in right. I must have been wiped out. The noise I was making must have tipped off my husband, because the door swung open, and there he was, stepping aside to let me stumble inside. Honey, why are you back home? I stammered, my voice shaky. Who's this woman? A sharp-looking but serious woman rose from my couch and walked toward us, her expression unyielding. I'm Mary Vermont from Child Services, she said. Did you know it's completely unacceptable to leave a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old alone for, she checked her watch, 4 hours? I'm sorry, but I have to report this deplorable situation to the authorities. I'm holding an interim order that bars you from having sole custody of your children for 28 days or until a family court judge says otherwise. Instead of taking the paper she held out, my knees buckled, and I crumpled to the floor. My husband, Scott, barely reacted, just rolling me onto my side to keep me from choking if I passed out completely, his face twisted like he was touching something vile. He couldn't have looked more repulsed if he'd been picking up roadkill barehanded. A knock at the door broke the silence, and Scott let my mom in. She glanced at me sprawled on the floor, worry in her eyes, but didn't rush to my side. Is what you told me on the phone true? My mom asked, her voice tight. Yeah, Mom, Scott said. Tonight was at least the second time she's left the kids alone to go out. The first time, I only found out because the neighbor called me. Olivia had a nightmare and was crying for her mom, so Sophie ran next door for help. The neighbor calmed Olivia down and stayed until Julia rolled in after midnight. She slipped out the back when she heard Julia coming and called me the next day. I got Child Services involved, and we faked a business trip this week to catch her. Mary clocked when Julia left and confirmed there was no babysitter. The girls knew I was close by, though. I came back right after she took off. Oh, and Lisa's husband tipped me off that they were up to something shady. We're using the same lawyer. I can back all that up, Mrs. Smith, Mary chimed in. We've got the neighbor's statement, and we'll get one from her friend tomorrow. Tonight, I had her tailed by a private investigator, Scott went on. He got video of her leaving a bar, heading to some guy's place, and, well, getting intimate with him. My mom stood there, her face growing more horrified with every word, taking it all in. Scott and Mary gave her space to process. Finally, she spoke, her voice heavy. Scott, I know you well enough to see you'll never let this go. Honestly, I'm not sure I can forgive her either. I'm mortified that my own daughter could do something like this. Don't worry, Mom, Scott said softly. This isn't on you. You're welcome to see the grandkids anytime, they'll need your steadiness after this mess hits them. I'll keep her on my health insurance for now, she's gonna need therapy, at the very least. Forgive me if I don't give her much in the divorce, though, I'll need every penny if I cut back hours or hire a nanny. Now, let's get her to your car. Actually, hold on. Can you both confirm she's already got bruises all over her legs, arms, and face? Yes, Scott, Mom and Mary said in unison. 5 years later, I wasn't there to see it, but I heard Scott was beaming as he watched our daughters, Olivia and Sophie, playing in the yard with their stepbrother. At 10 and 8, the girls were growing into strong, confident young women, while 3-year-old Noah was a bundle of giggles and energy. They're so good together, a warm voice said from behind him. Rachel, his wife of 3 years, slid her arms around his waist, resting her chin on his shoulder. Hands down, the smartest move I ever made was bringing you on as their nanny, Scott said, turning to plant a kiss on her forehead. Rachel came into our lives when everything was still a mess after the divorce. She was a childhood education expert, calm and endlessly patient, guiding Olivia and Sophie through their pain and confusion with a gentle touch. Scott was pulled in by her quiet strength, her insight, and the way she genuinely cared for our girls. "Tomorrow's the court date," Rachel said softly, her voice pulling him back. "You feeling ready?" Scott gave a nod, his jaw set. The hearing to finalize custody was set for tomorrow, wrapping up years of supervised visits for me. Therapy had done wonders, and I'd been sober for 2 solid years, with a steady job and a small but cozy apartment, finally seeing what really mattered in life. "I think we're making the right call," Scott said, squeezing Rachel's hand. "The girls deserve to have their mom around, even if it's just for weekends and holidays." After our marriage crashed and burned, Scott was swallowed by rage, wanting me to pay for cheating and leaving our kids alone. But with Rachel's steady influence, he came to see that clinging to that anger was only hurting himself, stealing his own chance at joy. "Your mom called earlier," Rachel mentioned. "She's swinging by with that apple pie the girls can't get enough of for dinner." Scott cracked a smile, warmed by the thought. My mom, against all odds, had become one of his biggest allies, supporting him and the girls even after taking me in when I hit rock bottom. She'd helped me find my footing and was the first to embrace Rachel as part of the family. The doorbell chimed, and Scott went to open it. There I was, standing on the porch, right on time, a habit I'd worked hard to build. I felt healthier now, my eyes clear and my nerves steady, a far cry from the mess I was during our marriage. "They're in the backyard," Scott said, stepping back to let me in. "Been bouncing around all morning, dying to show you their science fair projects." "Thanks," I said, my voice soft but full of meaning, not just for today, but for the shot at redemption he'd given me. As we walked through the house, I caught a glimpse of a family photo on the wall, Scott, Rachel, the 3 kids, and even me, all together at Olivia's last birthday. It wasn't your typical family snapshot, but it captured something rare and hard-earned, a fragile kind of peace. Out in the garden, Olivia and Sophie spotted me and charged over with happy squeals, their arms wide. I dropped to my knees to hug them tight, my eyes flicking up to meet Scott's for a moment, a silent thank you passing between us. Rachel's hand found his, and I knew Scott had built something better from the ashes of my betrayal. Not just in spite of the hurt, but maybe because of it. He'd learned to forgive, not for me, but for himself and our girls. And in that forgiveness, he'd found a happiness that slipped in through the cracks of a broken past.